Okay. Let's just make sure everything's live. There we go. Welcome back, ladies and gentlemen, to this, the first official episode of Gaming Grifter. In this show, we will go through the gaming news as and when it happens. I'm hoping to do about 4 shows a week of this, just because it's fun to go through gaming news, and it's always fun for me to live stream. I feel like I do it better when it's live, so we'll see. I have quite a show for you though today. The gaming industry apparently everyone is sort of in a race to see who can die quicker, except of course for some studios that have gone, oh wait, it seems like going full woke and absolutely pushing all of the politics into video games, not the best idea. And I think most of us would agree with that little sentiment, that little statement. But of course, this is the first episode of the Gaming Grifter, and I couldn't have asked for a better episode, to be fair, because it's jam-packed with all of my favorite topics. Ubisoft is basically dead. Marvel Rivals proves that Euro shooters are not gone. Path of Exile 2 is absolutely smashing it. The lead developer for Kingdom Come Deliverance is having a field day with the failure of Dragon Age the Veilguard, and there's just so much more in the show that we're going to be covering. There's a bit of a war happening in the anti-woke crowd at the moment that we're going to be talking about, and what the future of gaming might actually look like. Michael, how are you doing? But all right, so with all of that said, I think it is only prudent that we jump into the first topic of the day, and that, of course, is going to be my discussion about Path of Exile 2. Now, this isn't an official review, just to be clear. I don't do game reviews. I will discuss games, and I will discuss games if and when I like it, but I don't do game reviews. I don't really specialize in that. With all that being said, I have been playing the crap out of Path of Exile 2 over on Twitch, and even last night I got home quite late after having a bit of a weekend to myself, and I immediately logged in and I started a new character, a sorceress, and it is just so much fun. It's confusing, I will admit. I'm not a Path of Exile player. This is the first time I'm actually playing Path of Exile seriously, and I'm loving everything about this. Everything. Okay, so let's start off with the biggest thing, and this is where we're kind of skirting around probably something akin to a review. The performance of Path of Exile 2 absolutely smashed me. The fact that this game is in early access and it runs smoothly everywhere. I had no problems with frame rate lag or really any lag whatsoever, except when the servers were new. So basically on Saturday morning, yes, there was a lot of lag. There were a lot of times that we were logged out, but I haven't received anything on Sunday. I haven't experienced any of it. It seems like they've figured out the performance. Game performance overall really runs smoothly. The graphics look fantastic. The game really sells the dark, the grimness of that universe just so well. And what I don't understand, and you'll see throughout this discussion, I'm going to be comparing the game quite a bit to Diablo 4, because I think it's, that's the thing that it wants to be compared to, because, Rod Ferguson himself said, well, with all these ARPGs coming out, maybe we should call all of them Diablo-like. And no, Rod, after everything we've seen, we should call it Path of Exile-like, or Exile-like. I mean, Diablo 4 would not be an Exile-like. I don't know what it would be, but it's definitely not an Exile-like. It's also not a Diablo-like, to be fair. Path of Exile 2 really is. If Path of Exile 1 was the spiritual successor to Diablo 2, Path of Exile 2 takes Diablo 2, everything that worked in it, and expands upon it, and learns from its own mistakes. Something that really stuck out to me in the game was just how much slower this game plays than, for example, Diablo 4 or even Path of Exile 1. It's a lot more slow, it's a lot more methodical. You feel like it's not just about mashing buttons and trying to do as much damage as quickly as possible. It's a lot more about taking your time, looking at what the boss is going to do, and then dodging more so than just trying to hit. The bosses don't have obscene amounts of health. And really, one of the best descriptors I've heard of Path of Exile 2 is it is the Souls-like of ARPGs. And I think that is exactly the feeling that I get. The mobs are pretty easy to defeat, although some of them can be a little bit problematic. And you really do get the sense that every single... I don't want to call it classes. I think we should just point... There's no such thing really in this game as classes. It's more a case of what your build is. That is a class. So, for example, if you go heavy, just hit everything with a hammer, you're going to be a warrior. But you could have chosen witch at the beginning, and then you could have gone warrior because you picked up an axe, right? And now you're a witch, but you're actually a warrior. So the weapons determine what your class is going to be. From there, I'm assuming your build can go anywhere. I've not played Path of Exile, as I said before, so I'm not entirely sure if you can do like merge builds, say for example, go Chaos Warrior, so you have some spells, but you also have a lot of melee damage. Maybe that's super weak. I don't know. It seems like the game really wants you to take basically whatever path you want. Try new things, see where that takes you. Yes, the talent tree's big. Big and very confusing. The trick that I've learned about this is go node by node. Don't look at the full talent tree. That shit is confusing as hell. Instead, you look a couple of talent points ahead every single time. So, for example, if you're at a specific node and you want to, there's, say, 3 branching paths from that node, you look at, okay, this path takes me to that node, this path takes me to that, and this one there. Which one of these nodes do I want to unlock? Because which one of these are going to be helpful to me? Because you'll see some of them go into super mana generation. All right, do you have problems with mana, or would you prefer to go super more damage? What exactly, or do you want to go more survivability? This is sort of how I approach the talent tree at the moment. I'm sure there's people who's much better than that than me, and they'll take care of that in their own time. As far as I'm concerned, the classes are really fun. I've played the witch so far, and I've played the sorceress, and you have the warrior, the ranger, the monk, and the mercenary. Those are the 6 now. There's 6 more coming after early access. As far as I'm concerned, the sorceress, super, super, super fun. The witch, crazy fun as well. And I'm assuming pretty much all of the others just as much fun. So I would say definitely worth it. The customization really works. The armors look fantastic. I just got a rare pair of boots, and they actually look cool. They're not unique. They're the yellow ones, but they look cool. Everything just looks as if it fits, as if it works. The story, I should probably focus on most importantly here. For me, story is everything. Those of you that follow me, that know who I am, you'll know I can play games with shitty gameplay. As long as there's a story, I'll play it. There's a story here, and the story is interesting. The story is very interesting. Everything is voice acted from the ground up. Every NPC you speak to will speak back with actual voice lines. It's just super, super fun. The characters are likable, and here's the big thing. There is no politics here. There is the world, and you play in the world. None of the characters thus far have tried to tell me that they're non-binary, straight, gay, or whatever, because it doesn't matter. Who cares? There's no romance in this game. It's all about killing monsters and defeating bosses. And they got the message. They know. Oh, actually, players don't give a crap about this. You meet one guy who's lost his wife, and he's a bit crazy and mad, and he's just stand outside a gate. But that's it, right? So really, the game doesn't try to preach to you. It's not trying to force politics down your throat. Just a good, old-fashioned, grim, dark storyline. Now, I will say, for me, I think, and maybe chat can disagree with me here if you guys think I'm being wrong. I'm wrong about this, but from my perspective, this is the end of Diablo 4. This is, I think, what Diablo 4 wanted to be if the developers of Diablo 4 actually played ARPGs. You know, when Diablo 4 first came out, we were promised by the developers that this is the deepest of all of the Diablo games they've ever made. This game is going to provide you with so much choice and theory crafting and being able to make whatever build you want. And the talent tree is going to be super, super large. I don't know if you guys remember that. And then you look at Diablo 4 and you look at Path of Exile 2 and you go, did you guys mean that you were going to do Path of Exile 2? Or did you just not understand the task that was given you? One of the big successes of ARPGs, one of the main reasons why a lot of people play ARPGs is for depth. They want to be able to make builds that blow stuff up. And they want to be able to theory craft their builds and figure out which build is the best build. You look at Path of Exile 2 and you look at Diablo 4, and I ask you, which one do you think provides you with more depth? Which one will actually push you further and allow you to do a lot more theory crafting than what you could do in Diablo 4? And I think the numbers speak for itself. Now, I will say, keep in mind, this is only early access. And this early access has a $30 price tag attached to it. Look at those numbers. That is 578,000 all-time peak players over this weekend. 215,000 people are playing right now. I took the screenshot just before we went live. 215,000 people are playing right now. Ladies and gentlemen, it's the morning. It's 10 a.m. in South Africa. Most of the Americans are asleep. So this is insane. This is what a good game looks like. This is what the launch of a good game looks like. Not the people from Dragon Age telling you that 80,000 players is phenomenal. It really isn't. If you're a AAA studio and you have only 80,000 people playing your game on launch day, that's bad. That's really, really bad. And if the game is completely dead before the first month is over, that's even worse. It is incredible to see these games just continuously knock it out of the park. And from my perspective, Path of Exile 2 is actually everything that I would want from an ARPG, and then some. Because I think it offers something to everyone, regardless of necessarily how you want to play the game. Right? I think if you're someone that loves the theory crafting stuff, you're going to love Path of Exile. If you're someone that loves the story a little bit more, you're going to love Path of Exile. If you're someone that likes the slow, methodical process of Elden Ring and the Dark Souls series, this is your game. This is your game. The bosses are super fun, super intriguing. There's a lot that you have to do around sort of dodging and understanding what the boss is going to do next. One of my biggest mistakes originally was just trying to burn. And then you die. And you go, dude, what the hell? And then you realize, no, hit when you can, move for the rest. Because the bosses are fun. They're really good. I'm just at the first bosses. I'm not even at the big bosses yet. All in all, if I were to attach a number to Path of Exile 2, I will give it a very solid 9 out of 10. I'll never go 10 out of 10 because I think you can always do better. Plus, the game is in early access. There's still a lot that needs to go out there. But if it comes down to, am I having fun? This game is well and truly a 10 out of 10 for me. At least as far as I'm concerned. But that's my opinion. What do you guys think? When you die a lot, it still feels like if you just do this one thing different, you'll beat the boss next time. Hadwell, yes. Very, very much. ER boss is really engaging, except for the fact the bosses have way too much AoE attacks. I don't know if I mean, I'm not having too much of an issue with the boss design, but then again, I've been playing a witch and a sorcerer, so I don't have to worry about that. I just burn it down to the ground, no questions asked. So yeah, for me, it's pretty fun. It's not an RPG for me. I like RPGs. There's brain off farming. Shadius, I think you can do that too. I do think you can just brain off farming. The thing is, when you get to the bosses, at least in the beginning, you're probably going to have to pay a little bit of attention. But I think once you know the mechanics, you can just turn your brain off and just do whatever, right? There's going to be blow-up builds. You can already tell from some of the spells and the stuff you get. There's going to be blow-up builds. Absolutely. That is going to happen. But all right. On to our next story of the day, ladies and gentlemen. And this is a bit of a, shall we say, a bit of a problematic one. It's how it starts. It's how it starts, and it usually points to just bad things all around for everyone. So, for those of you that isn't quite sure, not everyone in the gaming community share our love for freedom of speech, share our love for creative direction, and developers being able to do stuff when they feel like it makes sense within their world. There are some people who really don't want developers to be able to just say stuff. There really are people who would prefer it if developers played by the rules that they themselves lay out. So here you have it, right? You have in the Elden Ring community, now it looks like Facebook because I usually expect these types of nonsense to come out of Facebook, but in the Elden Ring community, yeah, you have someone complaining. Feng Gula complains and says, for future Souls games, From Software should tone down a bit with language that can be construed as offensive and distasteful. I am not a fan of absolute censorship. Notice, however, whenever these people say, I'm not a fan of absolute censorship, what follows is, I'm not a fan of absolute censorship, but I do want you to absolutely censor everything that I do not like. Right? So I don't want you to censor me, but I do want you to censor everything that upsets me. That's basically all that means. But a setting for more inclusive and acclimated dialogue is important. No, it's not. The success of Elden Ring proves it is not. We don't need you, Fengula. You're not needed within the Elden Ring community. Elden Ring is doing just fine. The Souls games are doing just fine without your inclusive nonsense adding to the game. So here you have, I was particularly not a fan of White Mask Var. He's a creative persona, but his use of Maidenless gives ammunition to internet bullies to disguise their insults. This makes it more difficult to report them online, since Maidenless isn't viewed the same as virgin or loser, although that is the intention behind it. The term comes across as offensive to myself and other players alike. Do not speak for other players. You absolute virgin. We don't care. Don't speak for us. As a 37-year-old male with gynophobia, don't know what that means, eratophobia, don't know what that means, and social anxiety, dude, you are not a well-adjusted human being. Like, holy crap. I have to this day remain chaste and never got to experience the warmth of another human. I wonder why. You're 37 years old and you're weird. Okay, so he's remained chaste, I think, not voluntarily. I think it's sort of enforced upon him. Playing video games is an escape, and Var's harmful dialogue brings up these insecurities. How about you get outside and stop being insecure, sir? A bit of censorship helps players of all circumstances, ethnicities, genders, and age enjoy the product. While the game, first and foremost, isn't for all ages, there is an age limit to those games. Ethnicity, play whatever the hell you want, bro, but Elden Ring doesn't ask you whether you're white or black or whatever. And specifically, I just wish to point out here, sir, you, by your own definition, is a 37-year-old male. None of the things that's wrong with you is immutable characteristics. The fact that you're too scared to speak to women is not an immutable characteristic. That's just you being a bit of a weirdo, right? And you should fix yourself. Go to the gym, hang out with people, maybe choose a couple of ugly broads, talk to them first, see, oh, girls are actually not scary, and then work your way up there. But none of the things that you've listed are immutable characteristics. So you should not be expected or expect people to cater towards you and the shit that you care about, sir. Games are supposed and should be a safe space for everyone. No, they're not supposed to be a safe space for anyone. nor should they be a safe space. Games are supposed to be creative endeavors by developers wanting to make video games. None of that should or could be safe. If you look at Metal Gear Solid, for example, it pushes a lot of very hard topics. And is it meant to be safe? No, it's meant to do what the developer wants it to do, and Hideo Kojima did exactly that. Games are not meant to be safe, as it were. Okay, so we get your any infraction to that safe space should be fixed as reasonably as possible. No, it should not. I get that Elden Ring is a year or so old game, but if they could release a patch to remove the use of that word or to mute it, it would be appreciated. If you could stop playing, that would be appreciated. I'm also in the process of collaborating with social workers and educators in blacklisting this word and recognizing it as a discriminatory slur since it is frequently being used in gaming spaces these days. Unfortunately, thanks to Elden Ring's experience, if you could join me in this movement, I encourage you to share your voice as well. This is how it starts. This is how it starts with busybodies. Now, I am reminded of the fact, and I think I've mentioned this before, in the Bible, the disciple Paul writes a letter to, I believe, the Church of Corinth, where he warns specifically against busybodies. Now, busybodies, according to Paul, and in the Bible at least, are people who continuously seek and find fault and try to include themselves in everything. Like anything that happens, like, oh, I'm part of this now, and now I'm going to be working on this. And then they go to the next thing and they just constantly busy involving themselves in the matters and lives of other people because they're bored. They don't have anything going on in their own lives, and so they keep inventing these other things that they can be a part of. These people are warned about because they destroy the natural peace that should exist amongst communities. And this is what we have in the gaming industry these days. We have a bunch of busybodies running around looking at what they can destroy next. Like whenever people are having fun somewhere, the busybodies come, oh, they're having fun? What can we find fault with so that we can find meaning within our lives? You know, because that's ultimately what they're trying to get. This Fengula is trying to find meaning. They're trying to basically do anything to make them feel like they matter, because they're 37 years old. They have a laundry list of social issues that I don't even know what those are, and they really desperately want to feel like they matter. And so they invent problems, because of course we live in the era now where having mental diseases is a good thing for some reason, even though that should never be viewed as a good thing. You know, all of the people that I know, for example, that are neurodivergent, as it were, never use their neurodivergence as a shield for anything. In fact, the people that I know that suffer from anxiety, that suffer from depression, they will exist in spite of those issues. They will thrive in spite of those issues. Never once have I heard any of my friends who suffer from ADHD or who suffer from depression use their depression or their ADHD as an excuse for why they can't do things. Oh, I can't do this because of that. I can't do this because of that. They'll do it in spite of those things because they wish to overcome those things. This is just a very quick, very easy way to gain a couple of social points, because apparently we live in the community, in the world now, where these types of things absolutely do gain you social points. Now, one of the things that I do want to point out very quickly here, guys, is this is your year in review. We have the game DEI versus non-DEI effectiveness. And as you can see here, the games at the top, these are the games that had active DEI included within the game. Suicide Squad, and these are the peak player numbers. So the most players that they had at the time, it's not current player numbers, right? Suicide Squad managed to peak at 13,000. Concord at 697. Dustborn at just 83. Star Wars Outlaws at 2,492. Dragon Age The Veilguard managed to almost get to 90k before it fell off a cliff. Flintlock at 648. And Unknown 9 at 285. Now compare that to all of the games that isn't trying to be woke, nor is it trying to push any political bullshit. And suddenly what you see is Palworld at 2.1 million. Helldivers at 458,000. First Descendants at 254,000. Black Myth Wukong at 2.4 million. Marvel Rivals at 444,000, Space Marine 2 at 225,000, and Path of Exile 2, we know now, is actually at 500. If you look here, it is actually now at 578,000 players. Ladies and gentlemen, this is what you get when you go woke. This is what happens when your entire lives, everything that you do, is about your politics. It's about forcing your politics into every little crevice. This is what you end up with. A game that fails consistently around every single corner. And don't come at me with this nonsense of, oh, but what about Baldur's Gate 3? Baldur's Gate literally within its own definition does not fit the term woke. Because as far as Baldur's Gate goes, you are never forced to engage with any of the left-leaning political notions within the game. You can absolutely ignore all of it. If you see a lesbian character and you want to kill the character, you're allowed to do it. If you see a gay character and you want to kill the character, you can do it. If you don't want Asterion in your team, you can tell Asterion to F off. Gale, F off. You can literally do whatever you want in the game. That by its very definition makes it not a woke game. Woke is when politics are forced down your throat because the developers are far more interested in making political theater than what they are at actually making a video game. That's why you will never hear any of the anti-woke crowd complain about Baldur's Gate 3. Because we don't care if there are left-wing elements within the game. We don't care if you have gay characters in your game, or if you have female characters in your game. We don't give a crap. What we care about is the second we can't escape this. You keep pushing your nonsense into our video games, and there's no way for us to escape it. Like, for example, in Dragon Age, where if Tash is pissing me off and I don't want to deal with Tash, well, tough. Tash is in your party. And the only time you can actually get rid of Tash is at the end of the game if you didn't do any of her quest lines, right? And then she dies. And it's like, oh, well, finally, right? That's the only way you can get rid of Tash. You should have been able to kill Tash in the beginning. The first time she said, well, I actually feel non-binary. Bang! Done. We've taken care of that problem. Let's move on. Let's play the rest of the game, right? Now, am I saying that you should go out and kill non-binary people? No. But games should offer you the choice. There should be a choice to not have to deal with that nonsense and just go on with the game. Or for people that want to deal with that nonsense, to be able to deal with that nonsense. But it must be a choice. Otherwise, your game is woke. And we can see here, the woke games are doing really, really well. Drop down for 20 push-ups. The top sellers list on Steam is more like a top sellers plus top paying Steam to put them on top sellers list. Don't buy. Shadius, what are you referring to? How is EA Football LGBTQ+? Messaging and gaslight? Hadwell, this is exactly what I said, right? It isn't about pushing... it's not about the characters that you have in your game. It's about the message you try to push. That's the difference between a game being woke and a game not being woke, right? If I play your game and you happen to... I use this example so often. Cyberpunk 2077 has a character in it, and this is going to be major spoilers for those of you who haven't played Cyberpunk 2077 already, but Cyberpunk 2077 has a character called Claire. Now, Claire does the entire racing storyline. So Claire gives you all of these quests to go race all over Night City. And every single one of the races that you do gets you, sort of to build a better relationship with Claire, and Claire starts to open up about her life. And as Claire opens up about her life, right at the end, right? So you learn a bunch of things. You learn one of the reasons she's doing the racing as she is she's trying to get to a very specific street racer who killed her husband. She wants to kill him. But the only way to get to him is for you to reach the final of the Night City races so that you can actually compete against him and then kill him. And then when you start talking to her and you actually, learn all of the things that this guy did and how he killed her husband, a part of that conversation, she admits to you that she wasn't born a she was born a he. And one of the reasons she loves her husband as much as she does is because he was the first guy to accept her for who she is. And that is why his loss was so incredibly bad for her. Keep in mind, this is a nearly 3-hour storyline and hundreds of voice lines. You only find out at the end of that storyline that Claire isn't a she, but a he who, transitioned to become a trans woman. Because being trans isn't Claire's entire personality. Being trans is simply what Claire is. The personality is something completely different. That makes Claire a non-woke character. Because by every definition of woke, it is never forced down your throat. Claire doesn't expect you to gender or misgender or anything of that nature. Claire is an interesting character who happened to be trans. There is a giant difference between Claire and Tash. Because Trash isn't an interesting character who happened to be non-binary. Trash is a non-binary character. Cesar, how you doing, bro? Claire is one of the characters in Cyberpunk 2077. If you don't pay attention, you could think that she's talking about changing oil, not transitioning. Take that true, actually. Yeah, Cyberpunk 2077 is an amazing game. The RI Mass Effect is amazing, true. But yeah, anyways, I think it stands on its own merits. I think most people understand why this stuff doesn't work and why this stuff can't work. But all right, let's continue. Ladies and gentlemen, I give you, I don't know what to call it at this point, but it has to be like the collective blindness of the community. The game developers and the game media cannot figure out why some games work and some games do not work. It is an absolute baffling experience for them. Reading through about 5 articles today on the success of Marvel's Rivals, they don't understand it. Because as far as they're concerned, Euro shooters are dead. No one wants to play Euro shooters anymore. Because remember, that's why they said Concord died. The reason Concord couldn't get any players was because Euro shooters are dead. No one wants to play Euro shooters. And then Marvel's Rivals comes, and suddenly, apparently, everyone wants to play Euro shooters. Like, you go and look, 480,000 people wants to play Euro shooters. So, what's going on? Well, if you're confused, like I was, don't worry, the games media is even more confused about the success of Marvel's Rivals. And instead of actually noticing the trend, so in front of you, you have a little picture here of the female characters in Marvel's Rivals versus the female characters in Concord. And of course, they are absolutely baffled as to why Concord could not sell and why no one wanted to play Concord, but everyone wants to play Marvel Rivals. I'll give you a hint. The females in the top slide look far more appealing than whatever the hell is happening in the bottom slide. I would call it women in the bottom slide, but I don't think that's women. Very few of them look like women in the bottom slide. That might be part of the reason, at least. Also, you'll know no pronouns in Marvel Rivals, so you're not forced to look at a character that obviously looks like a woman, but somehow the pronouns go they, them, as if that is even a thing, right? So that might be a clue. But anyways, let's see what they have to say. 2024 has proven to be a very bad year for publishers launching new live service games, with big titles like X-Defiant, Concord, and Suicide Squad Kill the Justice League all failing to find an audience. This week's release of Marvel Rivals might just have bucked the trend. However, as a superhero shooter has already claimed one of the biggest free-to-play launches in Steam history, and then they go on to sort of explain that, oh, but you should understand that it could still all go wrong because some of those other games charged money before you got into it. Yeah, nothing excuses Concord's measly 638 player peak. Even if they charged money for the launch, if the game actually looked exciting, people would play it, right? But they go on to say, given the headlines live service games have tended to generate in 2024, it feels downright miraculous to see a new one doing this while at launch. Suicide Squad proved a financial disappointment for publishers Warner Brothers. Ubisoft's X-Defiant is going down with numerous devs laid off as a result, and Concord shut down just weeks after launch, with its development studio closing down a short time later. And hey, remember Foamstar, Square Enix's easy-to-forget foam party shooter, both launched and announced an end to updates in 2024. Ladies and gentlemen, go through all of these articles and you will find that they are all super confused. They don't know what is going on. How are they failing? How is it that Marvel Rivals is able to get 10 million players in 72 hours, the first 72 hours of the game's launch, and Concord failed? Like, what on earth could it be? Why is it that the gamers are fundamentally and completely rejecting these super woke games? Like, we just don't get it. And of course, it doesn't help that we keep telling them, because as we saw last week with Dragon Age the Veilguard's developers, we told them we don't want Dragon Age the Veilguard as they presented it to us. They went, no, shut the hell up, you'll play as we say. Then we didn't play. And we told them why we're not playing. Like, we all made videos about it. We all wrote tweets about it. We told them exactly why we're not playing. Then in an interview with Corinne Bush, when he was asked, hey, why do you think the game failed? Corinne Bush is like, you know, I just don't know. I think it's budgets. Like, the budget is too big. Corinne, the amount of copies that you have sold of Dragon Age the Veilguard, if that game cost $10 million, the budget would have been too big. Like, there is a point where the budget simply cannot be blamed. You couldn't even sell 1 million copies of your game. That's really bad. Like, even if you didn't go full AAA pricing, and let's imagine you managed to make that game for 50 million. 50 buckaroos, right? Let's imagine. You still didn't make profit. 0 profits posted. Even at 1 million copies. So what? Are you going to make that game for 10 million? Well, now you're getting into the AA space. Budgets are not to blame. Look, if your game sold 10 million copies and you still didn't make profit, then you could start complaining and saying, look, budgets are just too big. Because even with 10 million copies, we're not making profit because we managed to spend $1 billion on this game. No. This isn't budgets. But of course, they're like, budgets, must be budgets. So, because why? We would have been far more likely to play the game if you announced that you had only spent 10 million on the game. Like, the game is really shit. If you only spent 10 million on it, it would probably have been even worse. So, but of course, they're completely clueless. They don't know what's going on. But then, of course, they're not the only ones. Mike Ybarra. Yes, that Mike Ybarra. The dude who worked for a short period of time at Blizzard Entertainment as their president. He had a tweet which was baffling. He deleted it since, so I had to go, to the archives to find this one. But Mike Ybarra tweeted, "Looks like Overwatch Marvel Rivals ships tomorrow. Much like Light of the Mortarim, a clear copy of HZD out of China. I mean, even the character name Widowmaker in Overwatch versus Black Widow in Marvel Rivals. LOL, NetEase, Tencent, all the same." Basically, what he's saying is NetEase and Tencent are just copying Overwatch. Widowmaker in Overwatch, according to Mike Ybarra, is just Black Widow copied from Overwatch. So Black Widow, a character that's been established in the Marvel Universe much longer than Overwatch has been around, is actually a copy of Widowmaker in Overwatch. It is confusing. Now, of course, he got community noted immediately, which is why community notes are just phenomenal on X. Natasha Romanoff, aka Black Widow, is a popular Marvel hero who made her comic debut in 1964, more than 50 years before Overwatch and Widowmaker were created. The poster is spreading misinformation. Dude, I love community notes because people get owned by community notes all the time. I know, Cesar, we're going to be talking a little bit about Gunnergate. I do have some information about that, and I do have some thoughts on that. So we will be talking about that in a second. But this, ladies and gentlemen, this is Mike Ybarra. This was the president of Blizzard Entertainment for a time. The president of a gaming company who doesn't know that Black Widow from Marvels predates Overwatch by several decades. These are the people in charge of making our video games. This is a hell of a hot take. A hell of a hot take. In fact, it's so hot that it is completely removed from any truth whatsoever. It is nuts. Absolutely insane. But I'll remind you, this is what success looks like if you don't go full woke. If you stay away from the absolute nonsense of DEI and wokeness, this is what success looks like. This is what you can have if you're not being a little bitch. This is what your game could look like. You could have a game in the bottom half of this graphic. You don't have to make all of your games in the top half, boys. Maybe figure out what you're doing wrong and do it better. I don't know. That's just my idea here. Focus on what he's saying. We can debate later. We will be debating it in a bit. Few things in life are guaranteed. Death and taxes and get woke, go broke. True. So is Dragonflight a success despite DI? Shadius, if you... Okay, so Dragonflight being a success is a stretch. Dragonflight is a game that catered to the core audience, but by Blizzard's own admission, Dragonflight didn't bring that many players back. And I will say, there are, in my estimation, 2, maybe 3 universes on the internet that are, by their core, super woke. The first is League of Legends. League of Legends has an insane woke audience. Not all of them. In fact, vast majority of League of Legends players are not woke. But the woke audience in League of Legends is large enough to where if you say anything anti-woke in League of Legends, you're absolutely going to get dragged because they do have quite a few million players that are quite woke. Quite woke. World of Warcraft, I would say, is another example of this. World of Warcraft has systematically and slowly pushed out its more right-wing elements. It has gotten rid of its more based players. And I see it every single day in my comment section. From people saying, man, I no longer play World of Warcraft. I just can't take the woke bullshit in the game. And this happens on almost every single one of my videos. Where someone will say, I can't play this game anymore. It's just too woke. I've given up on the lore. It's nonsense. And I hate the virtue signaling. Slowly over time, what ends up happening is, if you chase your core based audience away, what you're left with is only the woke audience. And that does mean you're now safe, right? Because now you can basically release whatever you want within that woke space, and the audience is going to love it because the audience is woke, right? The audience just that you're giving the audience what they believe already, and so they're more than happy to engage with it. Now, I will say, take a note of Dragonflight versus The War Within. And then you'll notice what happens when a story is written by someone that actually has talent. The woke elements in Dragonflight was so obvious and so pushed that I had to actively ignore most of it. Just pretend like it doesn't exist because, well, I'm not going to get into that with the WoW community. In The War Within, Chris Metzen, you can tell Chris Metzen had to force himself to accept the woke nonsense and work within the woke nonsense. He even says it in one of the interviews where he all but admits that one of the big challenges was he had this idea for a story, but he had to keep all of these other developers that wanted their stories told happy. And so to figure out how to keep their stories in, but make it make sense with a bigger story was super difficult for them to do. But he had to do it. And he figured a way out. Because he's really good at what he does. But you can tell it, right? You can see it. Because suddenly in The War Within, yes, all the male characters are replaced with female characters. But the female characters are very likable, very well done. The male characters actually receive good send-offs. They're not just brushed aside. So, you know, I'll say sometimes when you have someone that is really good, they can make woke games bearable. Not necessarily great, but bearable. Woke games can work with enough talent. The problem is that the vast majority of these hacks aren't talented. Well, Amu, because they're not trying to be talented. Remember, these guys, they're just there to push politics. They're not interested in making games. Like, most of the developers that work for Blizzard are not interested in making video games. They're interested in making political theater masquerading as video games. Yeah, probably Caesar. All right, so what's up, Caesar? Let me just quickly. All right, sorry, I just got a message here. Next story for the day. Next story for the day, and this is my favorite stories. Anything that involves Ubisoft getting basically dicked on, my favorite stories of the day. Like, dude, I could literally make an entire channel called The Death of Ubisoft and just make videos every single day talking about all the ways in which Ubisoft gets kicked in the nuts, and I would be the happiest man alive. Every single time I get news of Ubisoft getting kicked in the balls, I smile. I'm like, oh, what a beautiful day this is. Ubisoft getting kicked in the balls again. Because I hate this company with everything in me. Ubisoft as a company is the accumulation of everything that is bad within our industry. And it shows you just how these politically minded parasites absolutely destroy franchises, how they have no ability to create anything of value, because they are truly the Saurons of the world. They are the Malkors of the world. They cannot create. They can only corrupt and destroy. It is what they do. I have a feeling that if Tolkien was alive today, he would look at the woke left and he would go, how did I predict this? How did I get it so incredibly correct? Because it's what they do. It's the only thing they always do. They corrupt. They destroy. Now, for those of you that don't know, that need maybe a little bit of a rundown, Ubisoft has been in trouble for a while. They recently released Star Wars Outlaws. Star Wars Outlaws is meant to be the game because it's Star Wars. No matter how bad Star Wars gets, it always makes millions of dollars because every Star Wars fan is desperate for anything that might be good in the Star Wars universe. Of course, thanks to Disney, that is very rare, if at all. The last thing I actually enjoyed of Star Wars was Andor. I thought Andor was actually pretty decent. It's not brilliant. It's no the original 6 Star Wars, but it is decent. So Andor was pretty good. I haven't watched any of the other stuff to the point where I could make any real declaration on it, because after the first episode of pretty much every other Star Wars thing, I was just like, nah, I don't want to watch this. But all right, so Star Wars Outlaws fails miserably, really, really badly. Of course, Ubisoft has this idea in their heads that they're not going to launch on Steam, to which the gamers go, well, all right, then we'll just not play your game. When it finally does launch on Steam, no one's playing it. The game doesn't manage to sell anything. So that game is basically dead. X-Defiant, that was meant to be their next big live service game. That fails miserably as well. Then you have the Assassin's Creed nonsense. Over the last few years, Assassin's Creeds have started to do worse and worse and worse and worse and worse. And now we're at a point where Assassin's Creed Shadows looks like it will be a major failure. All of this happens amidst almost like an investor rise up that is starting to happen. There's a number of investors in Ubisoft that has had enough, that no longer want to deal with the Guillemot family, and specifically the CEOs of Ubisoft, and they believe that Ubisoft should be taken private. Now, Ubisoft has been in discussions with Tencent for a while, because Tencent happened to be a 49.9% stakeholder in Guillemot Bros, which is the father company of Ubisoft run by the Guillemot family. They want to sell to Tencent, but, and here is why I don't understand what they're thinking, they want Tencent to buy all of Ubisoft. But then the Guillemot family remain in charge of Ubisoft. Yes, the people who have currently run Ubisoft into the ground wants to stay in charge of Ubisoft, but they want Tencent to buy out all of the debt, basically. So basically, they just want Tencent to buy their debt while they continue to destroy the game. Now, as you can imagine, Tencent absolutely jumped on that like a whore in heat. No, they didn't. Tencent is basically going, I don't really feel like I want to do that. I want to buy Ubisoft, but without the Guillemot family. And now we have an insider. It's Van Drienen. He is an insider within this space. Video game industry expert and data analyst Joost Van Drienen. And he actually says, Ubisoft is headed for privatization and dismantling in 2025. With its share price plummeting from $28 to $12 year over year, the company has become an attractive takeover target. Its valuable assets, particularly Rainbow Six Siege and Assassin's Creed franchise, could be worth more separately than together. So for those of you that might not fully understand what might happen and what the industry insider is saying here, if Ubisoft wants to sell their company to Tencent or to any other prospective buyers, they obviously want to sell it as a games company to another games company that will continue to make games. Except, of course, what if, say, for example, I am the... let's say I'm the CEO of Coca-Cola. Okay, let's just use Coca-Cola. Actually, let's say I'm a CEO of a major healthcare provider in the US, because everyone hates those, so let's say I'm a CEO of that company. Now I'm looking at Ubisoft and I'm going, okay, hold up. So Ubisoft has Assassin's Creed Shadows, they have Rainbow Six Siege, they have Far Cry, they have X-Defiant and a number of other franchises. These franchises can be sold for millions, if not billions. Because the Assassin's Creed franchise is worth a lot. Any company that thinks they can do a good job will probably want to do a good job with Assassin's Creed Shadows, or with Assassin's Creed, the franchise, the IP. The same is true for Far Cry, the IP, or Rainbow Six, the IP. I can sell those individually for a hell of a lot more than actually making the games myself. And this is where I think the hostile takeover comes in. This is why the industry insider or the expert is saying, at this point, with their share price being as low as it is, it's not impossible to see a non-game company move in, take over Ubisoft with hostile intent, shall we say, and just dismantling it. Taking each of these IPs, putting it on the free market and saying, who wants it? Anyone want to grab themselves a bit of a game? And they'll make bank. They will make bank because these IPs are worth a lot. It's sort of like, dude, how many companies do you think will jump at the opportunity to obtain the Mass Effect license or the Dragon Age license? I'm willing to bet loads. I'm willing to bet there are tons of companies. I can see a company like CD Projekt Red. I can see a company like Larian Studios chomping at the bit to get their hands on the Dragon Age IP. CD Projekt Red getting their hands on Mass Effect. Why? Because, dude, these are massive IPs. If you can sell a game in that IP, you're guaranteed making bank if you know what you're doing. And I think that's what's going to happen. Oh, and Ubisoft now also has access to the Star Wars IP that they can also move around and try to sell. So I think this is probably what's going to happen. And Z-Vengeance, it's not really copium. I'm just sort of mentioning the future for a lot of these companies, where these companies are going. I think they're all about to get very bad news in 2025. Companies like EA, maybe not EA, but BioWare, almost specifically Ubisoft. I think there's bad news on the horizon for most of these companies. And I think that bad news is going to come hard and fast and not in a fun way. You're going to be bent over and it's going to be rammed in 2025 because, hey, they keep ignoring the gamers. They keep ignoring the player base. And no matter how many times we tell them, bro, get your woke politics out of our video games, please. They just keep going and they just keep pushing. And at some point, you gotta pay the piper. Them be the rules, boys. Them be the rules. All right, let's see chat here. Let's talk to chat for a bit before we continue with the story here. What's happening here? I wish you could buy a gaming company. Alas, my wallet is a bit skinny. Oh, trans-conservative waifu. You're not alone on that. I wish I could buy BioWare. Like, I think, dude, the shit I would do with BioWare, it would be illegal. Dude, BioWare, that would be like the ultimate company for me to buy because I would love to make a game in the Mass Effect universe. Mass Effect and DA are major IPs, yes, but I don't think they're fresh enough for the major players right now. AC and Far Cry, on the other hand. Grisella, I'm not entirely sure, but we'll have to wait and see. I'm not saying that EA will sell those IPs, but if BioWare goes bankrupt, EA will almost definitely sell those IPs, because what's the point of keeping Mass Effect if you're not going to make more games in Mass Effect universe, right? Prospect, no. it's not about... So what this report is saying is that no one wants to buy Ubisoft, except for Tencent. So Tencent does want Ubisoft because, well, they already own 49.9% stake in Ubisoft. So Tencent would want Ubisoft. But what the industry expert is saying, other companies don't want Ubisoft. They want the IPs from Ubisoft. So they'll move in, they'll take over Ubisoft, and then they'll just sell the IPs, right? Because that's all they really care about. They just want the IPs. Hitting the nail on the head here. Dazed Doorway, how you doing, brother? Capcom should get rights to Assassin's Creed. They could probably do it as well. Michael, how you doing, brother? Tristan, how you doing? Tristan, the thing is, you are correct. The progressive audience isn't that large. You're absolutely correct about that. The problem, of course, is that the developers themselves are hyper progressive, right? So it doesn't matter that the audience isn't really there. I mean, you can just look at this. I shared this earlier. You can just take a look at this graphic. This graphic tells you everything you need to know. This is the current gaming space. Cormishan, how you doing? This is the current gaming space. This is the kind of stuff that the devs from the AAA space, this is what they're pushing. This is what they're investing in because this is all they want. This is what they think is going to work. Funny that you should mention Warhorse. Funny that you should mention them. Because I do have a bit of a funny story for you guys. This really is just a little bit more fun than anything else, right? It really is just a little bit of fun. But Daniel Vavra. Now, Daniel Vavra is one of the lead developers. I think he is the lead developer on Kingdom Come Deliverance. He had a bit of a tweet, and in the tweet, he goes, wow, 7 years old game versus recent release. And he, of course, shows Dragon Age, the Veilguard versus Kingdom Come Deliverance. And if you look, you will see that Kingdom Come Deliverance has 7,615 players with an all-time peak of 96,000. Versus Dragon Age Veilguard's 4,600. Now, as you can imagine, the people were not happy. The people were not happy. You see, they don't like the fact that he's calling out the developers. If you go through the comment section here, you will find that, you know, someone like Sperrant, for example, there are a million reasons why you shouldn't post or even think this way. I can't think of a single reason why you shouldn't post this way. As a developer who knows what it's like to be in the trenches and who knows that this industry, anything can happen, you can and should be more mature than this. Ladies and gentlemen, I will remind you that when Kingdom Come Deliverance came out, it was absolutely raked by the media as well as by the woke community for not having any black people in the game. This is a game set during the Middle Ages in Europe, and the developer didn't have black people in the game because it's the Middle Ages in Europe. It's not the Middle Ages in Africa. It would be like making a game set in Africa. It would be like making Assassin's Creed 1, and then you have blonde-haired, blue-eyed guys walking around. And it would be like, I'm not sure these guys are supposed to be in this game. Like, why are you here in this time period in this space, right? But they were raped, right? They were absolutely attacked for every single, like, I think for weeks, the attacks just kept coming. And then, of course, the game did really, really well. Then you have the people who are now basically running defense for all these woke developers out there who basically criticize Kingdom Come Deliverance. Now, remember, guys, Kingdom Come Deliverance is a game that was made by a very small studio. with a very tiny, tiny little budget. And they managed to make a game that is really, really good. And of course, comparing them to Euro Truck Simulator 2, it is ridiculous the amount of people who run defense for very bad developers. There's some of the comments here who basically run defense. Listen to this. Actually, I should find this for you. I want you to see this comment. Where is it? Oh, here we go. So here is a bit of a comment. Just the defense is absolutely important context. KCD has often been on sale for 3 to 6 euros in recent months. It's a super old game though. And with the hype around KCD 2, an increase in players is to be expected. Yes, it's a super old game that is super hyped, and people want it because the first one was so good, so they really want the second one. Thus far, everything he's tweeting about checks out. Even now, the game is more hyped and better than Dragon Age the Veilguard. Veilguard is already a month old with full price, bad story game. Most players who wanted to play it have already finished it. That's their defense. That's their defense. Ladies and gentlemen, we are not dealing with the best that mankind has to offer. We're not dealing with the best that mankind has to offer. I wonder sometimes if being borderline retarded is a requirement for being woke. Like, I don't know. It feels like it might be a requirement. Like you can't be woke if you have any form of intelligence whatsoever. But I wanted to share this because I found it funny. To be fair, I found it a little funny. Well, yeah, Kingdom Come Deliverance would be less popular than Dragon Age the Veilguard, according to these people. Wow. And just in Europe, in Bohemia, they're coming out of the woodwork. I was going to get just the Series S for Monster Hunter and a few games I had an interest in, but now I have to postpone those plans because I have to save for surgery. Well, good luck with that, waifu. If that's the things, talk about Friendly Fire. Lucy, how you doing? Yeah, we do indeed live in Clown World. Veilguard would sell upward of 10 million, according to one article. Well, it didn't do that. Pax, how you doing? So you find funny to laugh at retarded people? Of course, Shadius. Why wouldn't I find it funny to laugh at retarded people? Make them blind to their own hubris? I should be clear, because, Shadius, I have a feeling that you're trying to gotcha me into something here. I don't use retarded for people who are actually mentally disabled. A true mentally disabled person, why would I call them retarded? They're mentally disabled. There's no point in calling them retarded. The word retard has and remains, as always, a word used for normal people who act as if they are mentally disabled. And I am absolutely allowed to laugh at those people because they're retarded. And you're allowed to laugh at people who act as if they are retarded when they should actually be acting normal. Better come back. A lot of people using it again. I've never really stopped using it. I never liked when people didn't want us to use it. I was always like, I don't understand why. Because if you use the word retarded to refer to actual mentally disabled people, then it is a slur, right? Context matters. Context matters in this instance. So if you're looking at a Down syndrome kid and, you know, you call that kid a retard, that is a slur. Why are you doing that, right? It's not their fault. This is how they were born. This is just what it is. But if I'm looking at someone who is supposed to be normal, but they have the most retarded takes in the world, I'm absolutely allowed to call them retarded. I'm absolutely allowed to do that because you're not supposed to act the way that you are. You're doing it either on purpose or because you're too stupid to understand otherwise. the big player count at launch. Usually it only happens after an expansion that really improves the game. Zombie mode, wow. Are upset that people use retarded are the ones calling me cis every day. In the wise words of Tywin Lannister, a lion does not concern himself with the opinions of sheep. Dude, I don't give a shit about being called cis or whatever. Like, I couldn't care less. It just does not bother me. I have much more pressing matters in my life than giving a crap about what people want to call me. Yeah, all right, fine. You know, if that's what you want to call me, I don't necessarily think that that's a word, but all right, fine. Not recognizing or refusing to recognize context is a bane of modern discussions. Gorzilla, I think you're absolutely correct on that, and it's actually one of the saddest parts of modern day society. Context is everything. The spirit within which something is said is oftentimes more important than what is said. But in the modern day sort of world that we live in, it's like context doesn't matter at all. It doesn't matter what you say, or it doesn't matter where you say it. It's what you say that is important. And oftentimes they will take the least charitable approach, right? So if you say something, they will purposefully pick the least charitable option to ascribe to you, because that gives them the ability to attack you relentlessly. EJ, how you doing, bro? The king does not concern himself with the gossip of serfs. True. The word is not important. The point is they want to call you stuff, but are mad when you call them stuff in return. Wait, the gaming grifter is done live? Profile, it's now done live. It's now done live, you know? And waifu, that's exactly how I use it as well. Like, I'm happy to use the word, but I will absolutely stand up. If I found someone, you know, calling an actual Down syndrome kid retarded, I would absolutely stand up for that kid, right? Or someone that is actually literally mentally retarded, I would stand up if someone called them retarded, because then it is a slur, right? But if I see someone just using it randomly at a normal person and say, oh, well, yeah, maybe they did act like a retard, and it is what it is. Cedia, you're confused about what? All this thought and word policing boils down to one thing. It's an attempt to exercise power. Oh yeah, 100%. 100%. This is all a play for power. This is 100% a group of people who were absolute losers in high school who now see this new victim sort of Olympics as their way to become, shall we say, the cool kids. It's revenge. I don't even want to say it's revenge of the nerds, because I'm a nerd, right? It's revenge of the losers, basically. And they have found a way to make themselves seem less like losers. And now they wield that with absolute force in society. And society will not heal until we get to a point where we say, no, enough of this. Shut the hell up. We've had enough. People always love to play the victim. True. Oh, okay, but Acedia, so the reason I'm doing this live is because every single morning of my life, I make a collection of all of the gaming news that is out there, and then I record a bunch of videos of the gaming news that is out there. But I thought, why not do it live? I'm already recording the videos. I may as well just do the podcast live with the gaming news in tow. And hopefully some of you enjoy it, you know, because it gives me the opportunity to do this, to discuss the stories and not just cover them. Because normally all I do is just cover them and then upload them, and then, you know, the comment section takes care of the comment section. Whereas now I get to sort of get your feedback and your input on what is discussed. I did, Gorgzilla, and I'm going to be playing it later today again on stream. Probably in about 3-4 hours, we'll go live on Twitch, and then I'll be playing more Path of Exile 2. I'm loving it. I am having the time of my life in Path of Exile 2. I'm absolutely enjoying it. But alright, ladies and gentlemen, this is a discussion that obviously has been postponed right until the end of the show. But it is currently the topic that has, I think, taken over the gaming space a little bit. It should not come as a surprise that the anti-woke crowd isn't a unified front. There is no one anti-woke crowd. What you have is a group of people that I am a part of that doesn't want politics in our video games. That is kind of where the association between myself and, say, for example, members of the anti-woke crowd end. We agree that we don't want your politics and your ideology within our video games. But that's it, right? What video games should look like after that point? There are major disagreements within this space. Now, one of these disagreements that has begun to peek its head out is now commonly referred to as Goonergate. That's right. Should the future of gaming be absolute gooner, or should it be more pious, more Puritan? What exactly does the future of gaming look like? So it all starts with a tweet from Pirate Nation that says, is this what gamers want? This is from First Descendants. And in First Descendants, they've basically gone balls to the wall, trying to make their female characters look as sexy as is humanly possible. Right, so they put their female characters in the most skimpy outfits humanly possible. The female characters will then do dances and stuff that is obviously sexual in nature. And the game has been celebrated by many people in the anti-woke crowd because really it feels like the developers of this game is just trying to do everything and anything in their power to piss off the woke, which I can get behind. It is fine, right? There's nothing wrong with that. But then you have multiple different approaches to all of this, right? The first approach here comes from Melanie Mack. Now, Melanie Mack is a Christian anti-woke content creator. And Melanie Mack says, not me. I like attractive characters, but I don't want to play something with naked butts, boobs, or bulges up in my face. I'd feel like a total loser playing something like that. And then we have Drake Roberts, also a Christian content creator, who actually replied with this. Any person with a modicum of decency would say, no, this is not where the future of gaming should be headed. The constant promotion of half-naked women as the greener side of the gaming is getting ridiculous, and I'm beginning to think that these people who say they want to save gaming don't actually want to save it. So many claim to care about morals and future generations and not giving even an inch of progress to devs who push woke ideology or whatever else, but then they'll turn around and tell young men and women to support titles that throw this stuff in your face. Most of what I've seen for months now from these accounts are butt cheeks and cleavage. Seriously, how is this making gaming better? All we're doing is pushing normies in the same direction, but on a parallel track. People may argue, we just want to push back on the ugly woman agenda, just trying to make a point to the lefty weirdos. Okay, so where do we draw the line? Because there doesn't appear to be one. This is why I say that we need real adults with real ambitions, aspirations, and mature outlook on the future to lead the charge in this industry. People who have their priorities straight and their arousal in check. Now, as you can imagine, when it comes to the anti-woke crowd, you will have the anti-woke content creators who are Christian, like myself, like Melanie Mack, like Drake Roberts. Yes, I'm a Christian, for those of you that still don't know that, even though I have been outspoken about my faith for a long time. But then you also have non-Christian anti-woke content creators, like Asmongold, for example, or Grums. They are not Christian. They push against the ideology, but they don't share my principles, my morals, and my values, which is fine. I can be in the trenches with them without us necessarily having to agree with everything. Now, to this point, I will say Grums then goes and says, so Grums makes a tweet, he replies to Dread Roberts, and he says, I think being puritanical on both ends of the political spectrum doesn't help our population problem. We should let young men be young men. This isn't porn. It's not a replacement for a real relationship, but it does make young men want a real relationship. I don't necessarily agree with that. I don't think seeing naked women in a video game makes young men want to have relationships. Young men have a lot of problems, and I don't think video games are going to solve those. But it does make... Okay, so opposite is to tell them that it's wrong to feel this way, and that leads to even worse problems. So I sort of land in the middle of this. I want to go back to a time where games actually dealt with moral dilemmas in a way that was mature, right? You look at Dragon Age, for example, you look at Mass Effect, you look at the early Baldur's Gate games, you look at even Cyberpunk to some extent, you look at all the Metal Gear Solid games. Those were games that presented you with moral dilemmas in a very mature way, and then allowed you to make the moral decision based on how you feel, right? You take Mass Effect, for example. In Mass Effect, you can either be super anti-alien, super pro-human, sort of milquetoast in the middle. It really is up to you how you want to play the game. And the choices that you make are your choices. It doesn't matter for anyone else. And by the way, this is if a game should do that, right? So not all games should do that. You can get games that don't make any moral dilemmas. I would say a game like Elden Ring, for example, is a great example of a game that just wants to be a good game. It tells a great story. It's not trying to set up major moral dilemmas of any kind. It's just trying to tell a really good fantasy story, right? And that's it. And that is also fine. That is also good. What I don't want, and I think this is where I agree with all of the anti-woke, whether Christian or non-Christian, what I don't want is ideologically charged video games. I don't want games where either side, and I've said this before, I don't want games that push conservative values. I don't want games that push liberal values. I want games that just make games. And if you're going to have conservative values in the game, have liberal values in the game as well, and allow the player to make a choice. Allow the player to choose where they want to go with that story, how they want to apply it. And if you are going to make a game that has conservative values, then here's what you do. You do not then take an existing IP that has nothing to do with your politics and force your conservative politics into that game. I'm a conservative. My values are super conservative. But if I were to make a game that centers around my values, I will not go and buy the First Descendant IP and then make my game in the First Descendant IP into the super conservative video game. The IP exists. The IP has its own fan base, and the fan base expects certain things from that IP. To then try and shoehorn your politics into it is disingenuous and wrong. You shouldn't be doing it. Make your own game and write your politics as much as you want. This is one of the reasons why Dustborn has never made me angry. I laugh at Dustborn because it's funny to see how far it's failed to even reach an audience, but it doesn't make me angry. Because Dustborn is exactly what I want the woke crowd to do. Build your own game, write your own story, create your own universe, and then make it as woke as you want. Right? You're not ruining my shit. Right? But if you're going to make Dragon Age the Veilguard, if you're going to make a Dragon Age game, then make it Dragon Age. And keep your politics out of it because none of us care. We don't want your politics in our video games. As for the whole Gunnergate thing, here's what I will say to it. Do I want to play games with half-naked characters in the game? The answer is no. I don't. Before I became a Christian, I've now been a Christian for about a year, or just over a year actually. Before I became a Christian, I had no problem with that, right? I had no issues with that. Now I turn nudity off in every single game that I play, if that's an option, and I will turn sex scenes off in any game if that is a thing. And the reason I do that is for myself. I don't want to deal with the hormones because, yes, even though it is drawn, there's still an hormonal response, and that hormonal response will have an effect on me, and I don't want that effect. Do I think that the game shouldn't have that option at all? No. Because I don't think I would force my own views onto other people. So instead, what I would say is make the game, put the nudity and the sex scenes in there if that's what you want, but allow me the option to tick it off. Just say, well, I don't want nudity and I don't want sex scenes. Cyberpunk 2077 does that. It's called streamer mode, right? You enter, you put streamer mode on and you don't get nudity and you don't get sex scenes. And I'm happy with that, right? Because that way, the people that do want that stuff, like I've literally been saying since the beginning, I want choice. I want people to be able to make choices. If you want to have the woke stuff in the game, cool, you know, put your woke stuff in there, but give me the choice to completely ignore it. So that I don't have to play the woke stuff. I can just completely ignore it or get rid of it and not make the woke decisions. Don't force your politics onto me, and I will not force my politics onto you. Because I recognize as a Christian, I cannot look at those things. And I shouldn't look at those things. But I also recognize that other people are not Christian. And it is not my job or my right to force my views onto other people. There's no point in that, right? So, yeah, from my perspective, I'd rather a game like First Descendant exist, and it gives me the option to get dressed, than it not existing, and the woke crowd winning. So yeah, that would be my opinion on the whole Gunnergate thing. I think there's a much... I don't even think Gunnergate is the worst part of our community. There's a far bigger problem in the anti-woke community. And it's a problem that's going to come to a head quickly, very quickly. And it's the woke, anti-woke. That community, if we're not careful, that community is going to tear our movement apart. The woke, anti-woke are the people who are as sensitive as the woke crowd. Just about anti-woke stuff. This is the group of people that see a female character in a video game and they're like, woke, no matter what it is, right? No matter what that female character represents within that game, no matter how good or how bad that female character may be, it doesn't matter. It's a female character. It's woke. This is the kind of person that hears that a story might have a trans or a gay character in it, and immediately it is woke and it should be cancelled. I'm not entirely sure if that is the right way for us to go. I feel like that might not be the right way to go. Because I do think if a story, if a female character makes sense in a story, then why wouldn't you put a female character there? Like, if it makes sense. That's all that should matter. So I think we're sort of... I think we should guard our flanks. I'm gonna have a video about this in the future. It won't be done live because there's a lot of research that I've been doing around this. But I have a video about it, how movements become corrupted. Because I do think our movement is at we're at a point now where we're risking being corrupted and becoming corrupted, and that could be very, very dangerous. So we should guard against that corruption. We should guard against the more extreme versions of people in our midst, because yeah, they will completely look. If our movement suddenly becomes a movement that says no female characters, no gay characters, no trans characters, no characters other than white men, we will fail. We will be rejected because the overwhelming majority of people out there are balanced. They're not going to play a game that refuses to add any other character but straight white men. They're also not going to want to play a game that only has gay characters in it. We have to be consistent. We can't create our own ideologies now just because, well, we don't like their ideologies. I think it's very important that we keep that in mind. But yeah, that's sort of my feelings about that. Not everything is for you. Grow up. Wait, who's saying what now? What's going on? Why is chat fighting? And so it was before, to be honest. What changed is overrepresentation. What changed is literally just there are elements within the gaming community, of the developers, I mean, who have almost refused to apply common sense and instead just want to push politics wherever, whenever they can. I think that's our biggest issue. Tekla, what do you mean chat's mom isn't here? Who's chat's mom? Okay, so Powerline. Powerline, so an interesting, I would say, it's an interesting approach that you take. Now, first and foremost, you called me fat. Wow. The observance is insane. Absolutely insane. I did not know that. So thanks for bringing that to my attention. I will take care of that immediately. Next up, let's talk about the whole, if you don't like it, avoid it. That's exactly what we've been doing. The problem, of course, is that every single time one of your woke pieces of trash games fail, you blame us. Even though, by your own admission just now, if you don't like it, don't play it. We don't play it. Oh, these chuds are making our games fail. Well, what are we supposed to do now? We don't like your games. They keep failing. And just so that you know, in case you didn't figure it out already, Powerline, you are in the minority, my friend. And not the cool minority. No, this is the minority of people that really, really shouldn't be in the gaming industry. These are your woke games at the top, the non-woke games at the bottom. We don't play your games. As you can see, you don't even play your games, bro. This is the thing that pisses me off about the woke crowd, bro. They are so dishonest. So dishonest. Oh, if you don't like it, don't play it. Not everything has to be for you. Clearly. Because they're for no one. Suicide Squad, 13,000 people played it. It fell off a cliff the second the first day was done. Concord couldn't even get to 1,000 people. Dustborn, that's a game made for you, bro. If you're woke, holy shit. Does Dustborn have everything? Cancel culture, being a bully. It's got everything. Only 83 of you decided to actually play it. Star Wars Outlaws, woke as hell. You didn't play that either. Dragon Age the Veilguard, only 90,000 people could play it. That is disgusting for a Dragon Age game. We don't play your games. We follow your advice. You don't like it, don't play it. Not everything has to be for you. Then we follow your advice. We don't play it. And then it fails, and then you go, oh, these chuds, these bloody chuds that make our games fail because they don't matter. How stupid do you have to be? Very good question. How stupid are you? And that's a genuine question here. You exist in a space where you're holding conflicting pieces of information and you're not experiencing cognitive dissonance at all. The level of retardation required to achieve that is off the charts. Because technically, if we, the chuds, are insignificant and a tiny minority of gamers that don't matter, and yet we single-handedly keep making games fail because we don't want to play the games, how do you bring those two facts together? Because they can't both be true. One has to be true, the other one has to be wrong. Because they are very much mutually exclusive. Vocal minority that somehow causes a game to fail. I don't know, Chief, your math ain't mathing. You're South African. I am indeed, waifu. Love how we just own the word chuds and it's meaningless now. Dude, I don't see why chud would be a bad word. Like, why is chud bad? Dude, this is the problem that the woke left struggles with. You see, the woke left think that calling us names hurts. I couldn't care less. You can call me whatever you want. Like, I am very assured of myself. Like, I am assured in my own capabilities, in my own personality. I don't care. But I know who I am. And I'm very happy with who I am, right? Of course, not now, because as Powerline is just brought to my attention, I'm fat. I didn't even know that. So I'm going to go run on the treadmill soon. But other than that, right, I'm very happy with who I am. And so from my perspective, if you call me a chud, I'll own it. Cool. That's a new way to refer to myself, right? I don't give a shit because it is what it is. Who cares? Wait, you're South African too? Nice, waifu. Where from? I think chud just means a woman because when you ask them what that word means, they struggle to define it. Lol. Right or left, you have crazy people more interested in tossing mud than having a conversation. True. Very, very true. That 100% believe that the modern audience hasn't shown up in full yet. Well, the modern audience doesn't seem to exist. I hate to say it, but the modern audience appears to be, let's say, en route, maybe? Maybe they're still getting off the bus. I don't know. But because they're not here. Oh, man. Yeah. Oh, crap, dude. Why would you? And then they can't figure out why their games keep failing. It is a huge mystery. I didn't even cover this. Oh, boy. I completely forgot to cover this. So, again, you know, we're talking, of course, about the wokest of the woke games. Life is Strange. Deck 9, if ever you needed evidence. Yeah, they just announced that they're laying off a bunch of people. Today we are sad to share the news that we must say goodbye to some of our talented team members. This was an extremely difficult decision and reflects the challenging times many companies in our industry are currently facing. Which companies? I want you to be specific. Because not all of the companies are facing challenging times. Some of the companies are doing incredibly well. Like, some of the companies are absolutely killing it. So I want you to be very specific about which of these companies are really struggling. We are extremely grateful to every individual who has dedicated their hard work, passion, and commitment to making transformative entertainment with us. Sure, to those of you leaving the studio due to these changes, thank you for sharing your talent with us. We are proud of what we were able to accomplish together, and we are committed to supporting you in this transition in any way we can. To the community, we ask for your support and understanding during this difficult time. Here's what is interesting to me. These are the people who claim to be the love and peace and, you know, the accepting crowd, right? They're all about love. They're letting these developers go right before Christmas. Right before Christmas. at the time where you're supposed to spend time with family, be merry, be happy, this is the moment that they let their developers know, oh, by the way, peace. Go forth and prosper. Right? I'm not entirely sure I agree with the timing here. Like, why couldn't you literally just wait for January? Of course, I don't expect much from evil people to begin with, and I do believe that these people are genuinely evil. How do I know they're evil? I have witnessed the woke crowd. If you really want to know just how evil the woke crowd is, do yourself a favor. Find conservative trans people, or even just trans people that are anti-woke. I promise you there's plenty out there. Plenty out there. I have quite a few conservative trans people in my community. I also have quite a few anti-woke trans people in my community, including gay people that are super anti-woke. Do yourself a favor and ask them what it's like to disagree with the woke crowd. Now remember, these are the very people who claim that they're all for trans rights and gay rights and all the rest of it. Ask trans and gay people what that love and acceptance crowd is like when you disagree with them. Dude, you'll hear horror stories. You'll hear very bad stories. Like, the amount of abuse that these members of the anti-woke crowd face is far worse than even ours. Because, I mean, they don't like us. They hate us, right? And that's fine. But they will actively abuse members of what they consider to be part of the tribe because they don't allow dissent. If you're gay, you must think our way. If you're trans, you must think our way. If you don't, then you're not trans, you're not gay. Go screw yourself. This industry, in my opinion, is the peak of what is evil. Like, absolute peak evil. And they need to be stopped. Reality, and all he asked of the animals is to just believe in him. For anyone to think that changing reality for everyone is going against God. Can't we just get along? Oren US, how you doing, bro? I know this is off topic. Have you considered creating a political commentary channel about South Africa? I think you'd be very good at it. We need voices to speak out on the crazy stuff going on here. Oren, I've had videos about politics in South Africa when something happens in South Africa's political landscape that I sort of feel warrants those videos, right? But I will say I'm a little skeptical of entering the arena of pure politics because I don't think it helps. I don't think starting a YouTube channel about politics actually makes a difference. I think fundamentally you end up preaching to the choir. And the people that you should be reaching, you don't reach. And the only reason I don't think it's the same in the gaming space, like with the channel that I have now, is there are plenty of people in this space, at least, that isn't entirely convinced yet of what they should or should not believe. Politics is a different story, right? But I'm always open to doing new stuff. If I find the time, I'll definitely look into it. For now, I'm a little bit busy. The anti-woke stuff in video games is keeping me quite busy. And I'm not about to give up my time on the beach. Because for this, I would have to stop going to the gym 6 o'clock in the morning and spending an hour on the beach every morning. And I'm not about to do that. But if I find time somewhere, I will definitely look into making. Plus, oh man, South African politics is such a shit show. I realize this isn't anything that the rest of you even give a shit about. But since I have Arendt here, I guess I'll just say I hate everyone in South African politics. There's not a single political party that I agree with on anything. I hate the DA. I hate the ANC. I despise the EFF because I think the EFF, if they were to get into power, the very people that they claim to want to help will be the people that suffer as a result of it, which to me is just peak disgusting. It's one of the reasons I hate the ANC. They used very poor, very vulnerable people to enrich themselves at the expense of those people. And to me, that is just peak disgust. I cannot stand that. I think the DA as a party has been politically captured by the West. I think the ANC has been politically captured by Russia and China. And I'm looking at the rest of the political parties in South Africa, and I just think, well, who do I vote for? As someone that believes in small government, that believes in conservative values, who the hell do I vote for? Because none of these parties represent me. None of these parties represent what I believe a government should be doing. They all want to do way more than what I think is required. And so yeah, I don't know if there's fixing it, because I think on the surface most South Africans still believe that the government could fix things. So for example, if you listen to black people in South Africa, they want the ANC to take power, or maybe the EFF to take power and to pass all of these laws that you know only help black people. Not all black people, obviously, but some. Then you listen to some white people, and they want the government to also pass all of these laws and control everyone's lives, but now they want it only for the white people. And none of the two groups ever realized that power given is power never getting back, right? The trick is to not give government power. That way government can't screw you over. So I disagree with both sides on everything. You'll be surprised, or you will not be surprised when you hear family discussions between me and my family members. We disagree a lot. Not all of us. I have family members who agree with me, but I also obviously have family members who do not agree with me. And it always makes for some interesting conversation. If you had to leave SA, which country would you most likely immigrate to? I would... America. Jake, if I were to move anywhere, it would be America. I like America. Some states, not all of the states, but some of the states are great. Texas, most likely, would be my first state, or at least the first consideration. Either Texas or Florida, or Alaska, even, because that's also conservative, so that would be good. Yeah, I don't see myself being able to live in any other country, though. So I wouldn't be able to live in Europe. I think Europe is way too left-wing for me. And I don't mind it for them. The people who live in Europe, obviously, they love that, and that's what they want. I wouldn't want that. So I couldn't live in Europe. But I could see myself living in the US. I voted for the first time this year, and I didn't know which party to vote for because many parties don't have the majority of my best interest, so I narrowed it down to ACDP. ACDP is that's the Christian party, right? Many South Africans will hate me for this, but I've never voted. Actually, I think most people in the world would. I've never voted. I've never even been registered to vote. I don't even know where to vote, if I'm honest with you. I don't vote. Sada between the elites. Well, that helps. The West is very close to that, so you know, it happens. But all right, ladies and gentlemen, that is it for the first episode of The Gaming Grifter. The official first episode of The Gaming Grifter. I will be back tomorrow morning if there's news. If there isn't news, then I won't be back tomorrow morning. But I will be here again tomorrow morning with more gaming news. Now I'm going to go edit these videos and get them uploaded for those of you that just want individual pieces and you don't want to watch the whole thing. I really appreciate all of you. I will be back on Twitch later today. Keep an eye out on my Discord. You can find the Discord in the links down below. Should be there. Or on Twitter. I'll let you know on Twitter as well. At some point, it's a huge problem that is killing business because it does not agree with their morals. Thunder, I've seen that, but I'm finding it very difficult to look into it because it's obviously a field that I know nothing about. But I have been keeping an eye on the Visa stuff and what Visa is doing specifically with the anime industry. So I've been paying attention to it. The second I know what the hell is going on even there, I will definitely put out something. But yeah, you can reach out to me on Discord or on Twitter if you just want to chat or whatever. I'll be there and I'll go live later today. I just have a ton of stuff to do. I have to edit and then I have to go into town. So yeah, let's see what happens. Normally Mondays I don't work, but I want to stream Path of Exile too. So I'll let you guys know. As always, be good to each other, be kind to each other, and I will see all of you tomorrow. Or later today on Twitch, depending on what happens. I'll see you guys later. Peace.